Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you?
Oh no. New chairs, put those on the itinerary.
So, like, only today, we have 2 chairs coming to look at. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Good evening. Our council members ready to begin? All right, I'd like to call our May County Council meeting to order. And Clay, will you open us up with prayer? Are there any changes or corrections to the April meeting minutes before we approve? Is there a motion to approve? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Chad, would you like to talk about the IT request to purchase security equipment?
Sure, I can brief. Sorry, I forgot I had to hit the button. Yes, so I spoke with Jeff Lutz, our IT department this afternoon. This is some upgrades countywide to bring us out of the dark ages, if you will, in a very definite computer term. And so it will also bring, it's security enhancements across the county that are really needed. So these funds are for I think this will cover pretty much every single building we have. So it's going to take care of everything, including the new jail facility. Funds are going to come from a multitude of sources, but those funds have already all been appropriated. And the portion of that will be the GEO bond that is at the commissioner's discretion, which we appropriated a few meetings ago, 3 meetings ago, I believe. So, but I fully support what the commissioners in the IT department are trying to do. I think it brings us up to where we desperately need to be. And so I just wanted to mention that it was presented to the commissioners and approved last night, and spoke with Jeff this afternoon, and definitely something I think we're moving in the right direction, and I fully support it.
Thanks, Chad. And Chad and I have just talked about that we don't necessarily need to vote on this if the council is all in agreement in total, because we already gave the commissioners the go-ahead to use these funds for improvements. The total dollar amount was $249,000, and being funded from the GEO bond and our jail fund. Were there any? There were others, but.
Community corrections, as well as the potential of some 911 that could be there, and then maybe even the highway department. I don't know if we were going to look in their budget as their servers, and the jail lit fund, which was, I believe, right at $53,000 for the new equipment at the jail, which was in the soft cost budget
Correct.
built in. So,
Correct. So out of that total, what's budgeted already for the new jail will come out of that total.
Right.
Community corrections, we're looking through there. We're looking at 911 as we're looking at all budgets to see where that might come from.
All monies that have already been appropriated.
Yep, all monies that have been appropriated.
What's the time frame that Jeff thinks this will take to?
As soon as he can get it ordered, I mean, he's looking to move pretty quick.
Okay.
Don't have an exact time frame. He's still trying to get some better pricing, see if we can get some better pricing. He was working on that today. So every dollar, he's trying to save every dollar that we can. So that 249 might drop
Okay.
significantly.
Are there any council members that feel that the council needs to take a vote? I'll just leave it open. Okay, thanks, Chad. Corey, we welcome you to give an EDC update.
So there are two documents that I put at your station. I'm going to go with the resolution first, not asking for action tonight. I've also shared this with the commissioners as well, but this is related to the READY program. So the Indiana Economic Development Corporation came out with a Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative. Provided $500 million in state appropriations, encouraging counties and cities to organize in a region. We have to do that by July 1st. We have to notify the state what our region consists of. We have to identify a coordinating entity also by July 1st. Then we can ask for a planning grant in the amount of $50,000. That would require a match of $25,000. And so this is a match spread across the member counties. So there will be a local match. There may be a small request from county government. I'm thinking in rough numbers, depending on the number of counties that opt in this region, I'm thinking that each county should come up with $20,000. And when I say county, I don't necessarily mean county government. I mean geography, right? County government may be asked to contribute a little, but if each county can contribute $20,000 to the effort, what that does is it secures the match required for the planning grant. It also secures a contribution to capacity for the coordinating entity. And we haven't decided who the coordinating entity is going to be. We're looking at two options. One option is the East Central Indiana Regional Partnership, of which we are a member. It qualifies per the guidelines of READY. The qualification is it's a not-for-profit, and it's the majority of its board of directors are represented by the private sector. The challenge is when you go to accept or manage up to $50 million, you need to have a robust internal controls process and the capacity to receive those dollars, pay those dollars out, and create an audit trail. The East Central Indiana Regional Partnership is a well-ran organization, but it is a staff of two. And so we're going to have to staff, we're going to have to provide capacity both from a project management standpoint and what I'll call a fiduciary standpoint. So that's how I arrived at the $200,000 match. $25,000 of that is to get the planning grant. The other $175,000 is to be ready to manage the implementation, because the money has to flow through a regional group before it can benefit specific projects in the member counties. And this is all by way of heads up. Not looking for any action tonight, but due to the deadline that the state says we have to identify our region and pick the coordinating organization, I thought I'd better throw up some breadcrumbs tonight and just give you a heads up. Probably will be before the Board of Commissioners at their second meeting, their second normal meeting, or second regular meeting in June, asking them to adopt this resolution, and then your regular meeting in June, I think it would make sense to adopt this resolution. What this resolution does, it simply identifies our region. And that region is very similar to the East Central Indiana Regional Partnership, or Forge Your Path. Forge Your Path is the marketing effort for East Central Indiana. That is Grant County in the north, all the way to Rush County. It includes Fayette County, Jay, Randolph, Blackford, Delaware, us, Wayne. You can go to ecirp.org. I hope it's org. It's either .org or .com. And you can see the map of the region. There may be some other counties that opt to go a different direction, and that's okay. For example, Rush County is considering a partnership with Shelby and Decatur. No hard feelings. They play along that I-74 corridor. It makes sense. The other option for the coordinating entity is we are talking to Ball State University. I was on a meeting yesterday with the president of Ball State along with the several members from the Office of Community Engagement. They are the backbone organization for the Talent Collaborative, the Talent Region. So in the ARP planning sessions, I've blabbered on way too much like I'm already doing now, about the Talent Collaborative and how that can be the framework and foundation for our READY grant. Ball State's going to be involved as an anchor institution regardless. But on the table for consideration for regional, an option is maybe Ball State could serve as that coordinating entity and the fiscal agent. The president is open to it, but there's a lot more conversation that needs to happen. But I wanted to get this resolution in front of you prior to the meeting in June, where we will need to adopt it if we want to stay in compliance with the IEDC's very aggressive timeline, and put ourselves in a position to apply for up to $50 million in our region. You will get numerous invitations to participate in the planning for our regional, so the consultant helps the region put together a regional plan. You'll get more invitations than you want. We need voices, we need input, and not just elected officials, but the community itself. Because the plans are due at the end of August. So by way of summary, organize yourselves in a region, make a decision and notify the state by July 1st, hire a consultant and have a plan ready, and the plan really talks about, okay, what's the direction and the projects, what's the strategic direction, and what are the projects that you would like the state to consider investing in with this program. That needs to be done by August 31st. So we're hustling. I have asked numerous times, and I don't have a good answer yet, about whether the ARP money that the counties and the cities are receiving, can that be a source, subject to elected official agreement, could that be a source of match for the READY program? You'd be surprised to know that I've heard two different answers. So I continue to ask. There is a substantial match requirement on the $50 million. It doesn't have to all come from local. It can come from not-for-profit and private. But from a policy perspective, if a region receives $50 million, the IEDC wants to see impact of $200 million, a 4-to-1 match. I'll be asking on Tuesday whether that's direct or indirect. There's a big difference. Questions on that program?
Are these monies actually from feds? I mean, is it our money or toll road money or what?
You know, I don't know. I believe that it is part of the federal contribution to the state of Indiana appropriated by the General Assembly. But I don't know the ultimate source. I will tell you that I've been in this business for over 15 years. I've never seen this much money. And I'm not talking about the federal money. I'm talking about coming from the state of Indiana. The last time they did regional cities, they funded it with a tax amnesty program. And I jokingly say, Uncle Jack, you got an opportunity to pay your taxes and no penalties. And they raised about $100 million. And then they used that to fund the first regional cities in 2015. They're not funding this with a tax amnesty program. This is an appropriation from somewhere. I have to assume, and I know assume is a dangerous word, that part of it is from the federal government. Yeah. Other questions? As I learn more, I'll share it with you. That way that we can most be prepared to take action by the deadline.
Do you get a sense, Corey, that this is predominantly for business, economic development, those kinds of things? Or is that specified in the literature?
So the guidelines, they have an FAQ on the IEDC website. I can send you the link. It is somewhat broad, but it talent retention, talent attraction, quality of place, housing. I'll be asking next week when we meet with the representative from the IEDC, would a regional drug treatment center, how would they view that kind of project? Does that fit? I mean, I can make an argument that that's a health issue, but it's also a workforce issue. And you know, we're not the only county building a new jail. And so if we can bend the trend lines in a different direction, maybe we have a few less customers in our jail. Switching gears quickly, I know Councilman Maliko's going to give a redevelopment commission update. I'm going to steal some of his thunder and just say that we got a phenomenal bid on the Industrial Park Road that connects Brooks Drive to Commerce, just north of the Shell building. And so we also got a great interest rate on a bond paid solely from TIF, and appreciate the auditor and the county commissioners signing that bond. That was actually approved last September by the Board of Commissioners. But we didn't issue the bond until now because we wanted to wait until we had the bids. Appreciate Joe Copeland helping us out, fine-tuning our scope, and making suggestions on the specifications of that road. We've already signed a notice of award, and construction should begin, I would say, before the end of June. And we'll be done by November. And that will complement the new Shell building. It will also open up ground in the industrial park that the county already owns for smaller development. The winning contractor was VTF Excavation out of Ohio. They're located on the Ohio-Indiana border. We have worked with them prior. They built the Brooks Drive extension. We had, I think, 5 bids, and so we're really pleased with that. I'm going to move on to the business retention and expansion project. I'd like to note that I've got James Hoel from TS Tech. He'll be my phone a friend. I think he's going to say a few things, but he's the plant manager for TS Tech. We've worked with the Tax Abatement Committee in preparation of publicly introducing this project to you. The investment is $19 million. It's broken down into a $9 million building and about $10 million in equipment. It's nearly double the current plant size, 167,000 square feet. Impact, it's a retention of about 460 jobs. It's new jobs of 42. Their entry-level wage of $14 per hour, and that's no experience required. The average wage across the plant is $17.50, and they have a very competitive benefit package. We spent some time talking about the benefit package, and there's great value there to the employees. Some of the plans are at no cost, and a lot of choice for the employees in terms of health insurance and so on and so forth. It's competitive, and it's competitive from the sense of that TS Tech is a global company, and they have locations really all over the world. I would say the primary competition is in North America, and so, you know, working within the decision framework of their company, you know, the U.S. headquarters are in Ohio, but ultimately the head office, as they say, is in Japan. The impact there is pretty straightforward. There will be temporary construction jobs, new jobs here in the county. You know, a certain percentage of those people will live in the county, so that's increased local income tax revenue. Because of the foreign ownership, and there's a long partnership, I would say a strong partnership between Japan and Indiana. Indiana is fortunate to have 3 original equipment manufacturer, so OEMs. The first one was in West Lafayette and Subaru. The second one was in Princeton, and that's Toyota. And the third one is Honda Greensburg, which is why TS Tech is here. They located here in 2007. And, you know, in your packet, there's a photo of a framed newspaper article that's in our office. And by the way, I wasn't here in 2007. I think the only council member was Mr. Griffin. Mr. Griffin was on the council in 2007. We have all new commissioners as well. But this is a big deal. It was a big deal for the company. It was a big deal for the county. And when they built the plant, they built it with expansion in mind. On the north end of the plant, the ground was prepared for what's being proposed today, is expansion. But if you think about the timeline in terms of when that occurred, it was in 2007. 2008 and 2009 was the Great Recession. And even more so here in terms of the withdrawal of the what I'll call the Detroit 3, or really the Detroit 1, right, in terms of this community. And so for them to thrive and be at a point where they're expanding, I think is a really good story of a partnership between the county and the community. The recommendation is a 10-year traditional abatement on both real and personal. So as a way of reminder, a traditional abatement at 10 years, the first year it's 100%, second year is 90%, third year is 80%, and it continues to decline over those 10 years by the 10% increment. The estimated savings to the company over that 10-year period is 1.5, but taxes paid on the new investment to the county over that 10-year period is 1.2. From a process standpoint, looking to seek permission to work with Mr. Harvey on the creation of a resolution and prepare a public notice. And there's also a request for a special meeting of the council the week of June 14th. The reason why it's the week of June 14th is that allows us to meet our public notice requirements, but also would be helpful to the company to meet their aggressive timeline to be under production by the end of the year. I'll invite James up to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to be here. Just want to take a couple of minutes and first of all say thank you all for your past support of TS Tech. It's been greatly appreciated. I know I started with TS Tech back in 2007. I was actually hired on before our existing building existed. So I've been there for the life of TS Tech so far. So to say that to finally start seeing some progress on expansion is pretty exciting. We're really looking forward to this opportunity, and we're really looking forward to partnering with the community on this expansion project. As Mr. Murphy said, it is a very tight timeline. Given if these abatements would be approved, we are looking at probably breaking ground late June. The idea is the immediate opportunity for business. We have to be able to move equipment into this expansion by late summer next year. And if any of you have been in the construction industry lately, steel lead times are well over 6 months right now. So that's kind of why we're on the timeline that we're on. Also, Mr. Murphy mentioned that 42 jobs. Understand that is kind of our immediate forecast. That's a business opportunity that we're hoping to win, pulling some business out of Mexico to bring it here. Obviously, your abatements would go a very long way in making us much more cost competitive to do that. In addition, the additional square footage better positions us for future business opportunities. Ultimately, our goal is to fill that entire expansion with new business. So this is a very important project for us. I hope it's a very important project for the community, and I certainly appreciate your consideration in this and look forward to partnering with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your contribution already to the county. Chad, did you have a recommendation you wanted to share with us?
Sure. Councilwoman Steffendale, myself, and Commissioner Plummer met with the EDC as well as TS Tech representatives and went through all of this in detail with them again, and we asked a few questions, had very informative. I agree with everything that Corey said. This is a great project. It's not only brings immediate jobs, but has the potential to bring quite a few more. They're building well more than they actually need to do with the current production they're looking at with the 42 jobs, so that's encouraging. Next time they can immediately jump right into things. So I can only speak for me personally, but I strongly would support this, and I think we should give Corey permission to move forward with seeking this abatement in the requested 10-year step down.
Thanks, Chad. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Peg?
I agree. I was very impressed. The competition is great out there. I mean, it is. And we need to realize that they've done a lot for the community already, and they're going to do more. So they have my full support.
Yes, sir.
I remember very well when they came here, and, you know, they met every policy coach. They've been a great partner, and I definitely feel we can't go wrong by approving it.
So Is there a motion to approve?
I will make a motion that we allow Mr. Murphy to move forward with the necessary paperwork and request that we schedule a special meeting for the 14th of June.
I'll second that.
Other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again.
I think you had mentioned maybe like 10 a.m. on the 14th as a possibility. Mr. Murphy, was that correct? A number we threw out, I think, in our meeting. I don't know how that works for everyone's calendar.
Is the 14th a Monday? I don't have the calendar in front of me. Yes.
Yeah, that was the earliest we could have it, I mean, in terms of the day. I mean,
Right.
You want to meet at 6 a.m., I'll be here.
We have one person on vacation, but as long as we have quorum, I think that's okay.
And what exactly would that meeting be?
It would be so we'll, Mr. Harvey and I will work together to create the public notice, and we'll put in the public notice, the goal, the target is by next Thursday. It'll run in both papers, Courier Times and the Middletown News. We also send that same notice to the overlapping taxing districts, informing them that the county council will hold a public hearing on this matter at such and such date and time. You open it up for public hearing, and then you vote.
To approve the abatement.
It should be a short meeting. Should be.
Yeah.
I probably just jinxed it.
If it were in the morning, I have a conflict, but I could do anything in the afternoon potentially, so.
Is a 2:00 meeting as agreeable to other people, or are you, Peg, you prefer mornings, I know? Okay. Okay. All right. Chad, 2:00?
The 14th is fairly open for me right now, so I can make just about anything work.
Okay. And if we needed, well, I was going to say we could open it up over Zoom if we needed quorum, but. Find somebody to get minutes because we'll both on vacation. Okay, we will do that. Do we have leeway with that or statute? Why? Can you do that? Is that okay? Okay. Okay. June 14th at 2 p.m. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mhm. Chad, do you want to continue with an RDC update?
So I will only briefly, Corey stole a lot of the thunder, as usual. No, we've met a couple times this month since our last meeting. Lots of exciting things going on. This was obviously one of the things we spoke about. Other projects that are out there that will be coming very shortly as a public announcement, but and looking into some really interesting things that they haven't done in the past, such as residential housing and things. So a lot of moving and shaking going on. We did discuss the TIFs and the current values and cash reserves in the TIFs, and the commission agreed to pass on nearly almost $1 million in AV from the TIFs to the budgets, which affects all the overlapping taxing districts, the school systems, the townships, the libraries, and the county. So it's a positive thing. We've seen some amazing growth in our community, and these TIFs are healthy enough that they can pass on some of that AV, which is, it helps everything. So it's a great thing, and I think we're continuing to move in the right direction.
Great. Thank you, Chad. Next on our itinerary is resolution number 2021-05-27-04. And this is a resolution just formalizing our ability to have virtual meetings and the exact requirements that we have to follow. And this is good to do because the state has actually been very specific about the requirements for us to do this. And I just wanted to read out loud that when we do have council members participating electronically, all participating members need to be able to simultaneously communicate, and we need to actually be on camera. That's what it
That's
seems
correct.
like?
If
it?
you want to
Yeah.
be able to vote on something, you have to be able to be
Okay.
seen and heard.
Right. Okay, and then no more than 3 members should be participating electronically. All votes should be done by roll call. And then it says here that, was it every other meeting? You couldn't
You
do,
can attend no more than 2 in a row and no more
Okay.
than 50% of the
Okay.
total meetings in a year.
And
Unless you have to attend by electronic means for
Right.
specified reasons, which are military service, illness or medical condition, death of a relative, or emergency involving actual or threatened injury to persons or property.
okay. And then the only other thing is if you're planning to participate electronically, to let me know 48 hours before the meeting. So this is, as Joel said, this is the most relaxed, just to meet the basic requirements. We have the option of making it more strict, which I don't necessarily see value in doing, but we can definitely talk about that. And we do need to adopt this if we want to have the option of meeting electronically. Is there any discussion or questions about that for Joel?
Does this parallel what the commissioners passed last night?
I am not certain about that.
It's the same, each body had to have an ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just adopted the least restrictive requirements. I mean, there are, for instance, you can't have more than 50% of members attending virtually. So obviously the commissioners, they can only have 1 member attending
Right.
virtually, whereas you guys can have up to 3.
Got it.
So there'll be some minor variances depending on the makeup of your body, but
I think this is great. As somebody who has a job when, not during a pandemic, I would be traveling a lot for conferences, this would be really convenient. I hate to miss any meeting and not in person, but we have learned over the last year and a quarter that we can facilitate things online. It's better to be in person. We can do both at the same time, and I think we're getting better at it. So I fully support this. Personally, I know it's going to make my life easier. Not that I have any meetings that I'm anticipating not being here for, but just the hypothetical I think is great. Or if somebody's ill or an emergency situation, just giving more flexibility so that we can all have all of our members participating, I think is a really good thing.
I agree. Any other input?
I would make a motion that we pass Resolution 2021-05-27-04.
Second.
Other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Kenan, you have a JCAP update followed by an ARP update for us.
JCAP stands for the Jail Chemical Addiction Program. We had Tisha Lindsay, who's the director of the Dearborn County JCAP program, which began in 2007, so it's probably one of the longest-standing programs and one of the most successful programs in the state for substance use disease treatment in correctional facilities. I think Boone County's right up there, beginning about the same time. They've done IU studies on the effectiveness of their program. They show their recidivism rate being twice as effective as the state average for both males and females. She spoke to 19 individuals who showed up at the 911 center training room this morning for 3.5 hours. She presented, and there were a lot of good questions. We had representatives from the jail, corrections, judges, sheriffs, treatment facilities in town, mental health, health care, nonprofits, 911, and county government in the 19 people. So when Corey mentioned something about a regional treatment facility, he's going to need to be probably linked in with that group so the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. There's a lot of knowledge that was in that room, a lot of experience, and she answered a ton of questions. There is about a $1.5 million component in our new jail, a facility we thought was going to be on the chopping block. a year ago, but it made it in when the bids came in for the new correctional facility, more competitive than what we had envisioned. So there is space out there for 12 males and 8 females, which is about the percentage that she has down in Dearborn County. Chad was in attendance, and so was Ed Tarantino, so if either one of them would like to make any kind of comments. When they began in 2007, I think they budgeted, and it did not come out of the county general fund. This was out of grants and pleading with things like the community foundation that they have, et cetera, et cetera. It was about 125,000. She's up to 190,000, but they've grown exponentially in the past 14 years. So during that time, the expense has gone up. She recommends a certain degreed person to be director, and she has 2 social workers, one for working specifically with the male population and one with the female population. That's where she got the 190,000. She said we could probably start out about 125,000. She recommended we started with the male group, and she gave her reasons, and they weren't sexist reasons at all. It was based on behavioral research and research of the brain and the social dynamics that she's experienced over the last 14 years. A lot of thought, a lot of ideas. The sheriff shared some ideas of his. We had representatives from Meridian, the health department, commissioner to council, the sheriff, the guest house, and others. The jail, our jail commander and assistant commander were there. Jay and Rick were there. So Rick or Chad or Ed, any other things you'd like to share from what you gleaned from today's 3.5-hour training?
Well, like I can talk for a while. I was impressed, and I feel confident that moving forward, we can make this work. We've got some hurdles. There's always money involved, but we can do this, and it's got to be done. So that being said, I appreciate Ken and all his work, and the fact that the commissioners, Chad, everybody that's involved, it encourages me to be somewhat excited about the possibilities of where this program could go and the success that's been had down with the lady who talked with us today. I believe she said she's graduated, or at least have 500 participants. And if we just get 50 of those individuals who don't ever come back into our system, that is quite a success. But if we get 5, I consider that a success because of the epidemic of drugs in our country, not just our country, but in our country. I've said it many times, if I walk into a sheriff's department, any place in the United States, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I have, but in the few that I have been in outside of the state of Indiana and in the state of Indiana, if I close my eyes and I stand still and I listen for 5 minutes, I will think I'm home, because the problem is the same. Some much larger, but at the same time, we're looking for a way to help these individuals. And once I realized that as a cop, not a social worker, not a psychologist, but it's not a choice or by choice that these people end up in these situations. Don't get me wrong, I know they make the initial decision to try something, but we know that it's an illness. And some of us your jail as long as I'm sheriff. Because when we start talking about other drug treatments, number one, it doesn't qualify, at least if we look at their program down in Lawrenceburg, it doesn't, they won't even qualify. And then when I talk to our judges, specifically Judge Crane, those people wouldn't qualify for drug court. Vivitrol, on the other hand, is one that is accepted. And with the Vivitrol Black, the difference that we have is our problem in Henry County is still the same. It is not opioids, but methamphetamine. And my understanding that the Vivitrol is for the opioids, obviously heroin, and those opioid components. But the Vivitrol Black, she explained they've had some success in treating those individuals who are meth addicts. So I'm encouraged. I'm a little excited. We've got several hurdles to get through. As your desktop is the same as mine, it never seems to stop, but it gives me hope, and it gives me encouragement, and it gives me energy to keep working towards that goal. A guy with a year and 220 days, I'll work real hard until I get to the end of that. But thank you all so much, and again, it gives you an insight as to where we can start now with drug treatment while they're in our jail, or at least when they're soon to be released. And then with the drug courts, the veterans courts that are already operating, and with the possibility of a treatment facility while incarcerated. And then we have to look past that for follow-up once they're released. And we got a lot of good ideas today. So I'm encouraged, I'm excited, and I'll continue to work in that direction. And it gives me hope. It gives me hope for all of you whose lives have been affected, and we all have. If I can find one person who can tell me they didn't have at least an alcoholic in their family at some point. We've all been affected. We've all seen the pain. We've all watched those lives disintegrate, and gives me hope. And I'm especially encouraged with our clergy getting involved because, and I know I'm old school and I know I can step on some toes here, but I think if we stay in a faith-based, and I don't care what your faith is, as long as we have faith in a higher being, and as long as we work towards that common goal of helping these people, and I'm encouraged, and I'll continue to work.
You use the figure that I think 85 to 95% of those incarcerated are some reason, some primary or secondary reasons there because of addiction or theft because to support their addiction or somehow or another in our jails, like 90%.
Yes.
And then it's a revolving door. They get out and without treatment, they're back in 6 months or however many months.
We've had them come back in within hours. I mean, and that's not an exaggeration. We can pull up the cases, we can show you. As always, if I say it, check it, fact check it. But we've had them come back in within hours into our facility because they get out and they pick right up where they left. And sometimes, and I don't want to use names, but when you see these younger people who die suddenly, it's because they've been in our jail, they've been dried out, they get on the street, they get the same fit that they did before when they were using the same amount of dope that they were using before, and it kills them because they've dried out. And too many of those lives have been lost. We're on the right track. And I'll shut up.
I will only quickly mention, and then we can move on. I think this does something to move forward to ending this generational addiction problem that we have in our community. Because we're not only investing in people today, but those future generations. And the sheriff can talk and tell you, he can list grandmas, grandpas, sons, daughters, grandkids, all the way down the line that he sees on a regular basis for this same problem. And I think that addresses it. So I'll quickly mention that and we can move on.
And for the businesses that are here, when you start looking at TS Tech and you start hearing stories from Boar's Head or Crown, where we have going on in our community. So this is a way to help them regain their self-confidence and a pride in their successes.
Ken and I have just a quick question. So the recommendation was to start with men, and you said we had spots for 10,
12.
12, that's right.
That was her recommendation. She found that that works more successfully. There's a little bit more behavior involved from a research standpoint with the women. But she does have a social worker specifically working with men, plus a social worker working specifically with women. But she gave reasons.
Was the 125,000 the cost of the program to run?
That was basically for staffing, and
So those are the counselors and,
that was her and fringe benefits. And when they started in 2007, I think she had one part-time social worker, and she has 2 full-times. But she has 16 men and 16 women, and she started out a lot lower than that. She started out slow, and that's what she recommended, get her feet wet and
I just
grounded
wanted to
in
make sure I
experience.
followed that. So when we go to budget jail operations,
I will only mention, obviously, fiscal questions was some of the big questions I had. They operate solely on grants. They receive 0 funds currently from the general fund, and that was something I spoke with Kenan about briefly, that we're going to get with her, Kenan and I are, get some details, get some numbers, get her budget, and then I think we also reach out to ARA, the grant writing group that we partnered with, to start the process immediately to see what's there, because we may be able to begin this process
yeah.
this year. Even though the jail's not complete, we may be able to start purchasing equipment and whatever else we can look at. So I think there has to be, they've been operating now for 14 years on pure grants.
Wow.
So and she even mentioned that, especially as a startup, there's a lot of money available. So, yeah.
It's a good time to get grant money right now, too.
Exactly. And yeah, as Corey said, that I've never seen this much money floating around out there in
Right.
grant opportunities.
Thanks, Kenan. So you have an ARP update and also a health department update. I missed that the first time.
Yes, the ARP, substance abuse and mental health are legitimate components within ARP, but I'm going to press the pause button. I'm just saying that is a possibility, and we're nowhere near talking specific projects. There's grants through the Attorney General's office, through the state, through, she mentioned CASA. They charge $8 for the curriculum book to the actual participants, the males and females that are in the program. She charges for pencils. They're very creative with a blended budget. And but she has also gone to the council every year asking for monies. But she said she'd talk to us specifics about how to make it work and how to get it off successfully. So ARP is the American Rescue Plan. We've met twice so far. The most recent meeting was on May 6th. I think we have 10 or 11 members. We have 5 council, 3 commissioners, auditor, Corey, and Angela Cox. And we've asked Corey to bring one other person because business and economic development and the downturn of the economy during the pandemic is a major component, and healthcare and the effects of the pandemic relating to that aspect is another one. So Angela may be bringing another person, which would take our group up to, I think, an even dozen. Our next meeting is next Thursday, and it's been modified a little bit. At 9:15, Baker Tilly is going to come here, and I think that was advertised in our website that it's open to the public and the media. 9:15 in here next Thursday. They're going to go over our 3-year financial comprehensive plan that we've hired them to do the last 3 years. I personally think that's been very beneficial, and they've been pretty accurate, so that I think we're on a more fiscally sound general fund and footing than what we were 3 years ago, for sure. I was going to talk just briefly a little bit about insurance. We are greatly more financial firm footing in health insurance than we were 3 years ago. So after Baker Tilly talks about our 3-year fiscal comprehensive plan, they're also going to, at the recommendation of Commissioner Tarantino at the end of our May 6th meeting, suggested that we ask them what they can do, give a presentation as our fiscal consultant for ARP. I think we got the first half of the budget monies from the U.S. Treasury, and I saw that on the budgetary report that Debbie shared a few days ago. So the 4.65 million, something like that, we have in the bank, getting the huge interest of 0.25%, which is not much, but on 4.6 million, and we'll get a few dollars out of that. We've made no decisions on projects. Cities seem to be, I read in the papers that cities seem to be already making decisions on what projects they're going to fund with their federal monies. I haven't seen counties. We're taking it slow. We have until December 31st, 2024 to encumber the money for our projects, and the projects can be then completed 2 years later on December 31st, 2026. So there's no reason to get in a hurry. I think we're going slow and methodically, but getting a lot of input from people in the know. AIC is helping us. There was a video that David, I never pronounce his last name, Bodorf? Bodorf. Thank you. He's the head of AIC, the Association of Indiana Counties. On May 20th, last week, he did another update on ARP. NACO, the National County Association of Counties, had put out wonderful treaties, guidance, videos. If you go on the AIC web's email update today that they sent out, I think probably to all council and commissioners, there's a link to NACO 25-page update guidance on ARP that's dated May 24th. So we're talking really current information. Now, the U.S. Treasury put out what they call their interim final rule. And I think their final rule is going to be on August, end of August is when it's due, because they're getting public comment from around the country right now. But their interim final rule was 152 pages. And we got that on May the 10th. And some of it's legalese, but it actually is fairly readable for a U.S. government document. But so this is leading up to, this is why we're listening to a presentation from Baker Tilly to possibly be a consultant. The online videos that they've provided, Zoom, whatever, they've put a lot of effort and have a lot of experience, but we'll make a decision whether we're going to hire them or not. AIC suggests you put a limit on how much you pay these consultants per year, so you don't get bills of $50,000 or whatever. One place I read that they said allocate, I think this was at AIC in Shelbyville, allocate $144 an hour for federal audits, which are annual during this, $144 per hour. Don't get any ideas, Joel. But those are your tax dollars at work. But that's a requirement. I know the auditor's department, you're going to have a quarterly report coming up in end of September, I think. No, October. There's an interim report to the feds in August. Her department's going to have a lot of requirements, and I know she's working with the State Board of Accounts on that. But I think we're going about it correctly. The commissioners have to approve certain ordinances, one which is already approved. The council has to approve all additional appropriations by law. But we've been working together, and I know the commissioner in Hendricks County on 2 different occasions online. I know Betsy was on one of those online. He also spoke in person at that workshop that Bobby and I attended